This is Take 5 with Bentley, Nevada. In the studio with me is Carlos Gomez, and Carlos and I have been enjoying kind of a wide-ranging discussion about a lot of things. And Carlos, I know there's some particular things that you want to talk about, and there's some particular things that I want to ask, and I'm confident we're going to be able to get to all of those things. In the last episode, talked a lot about asset performance management, and I think there's a lot of confusion in the industry. There's a lot of people throwing that acronym around. Depending on who you're talking to, they're using the same words, but it's not the same technology stack. It's not really the same components or ingredients, and it's not necessarily even trying to solve the same problem. So from your perspective, Carlos, what is asset performance management?
Let me try and start textbook just because got to start somewhere. Look at what Gardner has said to the industry, right? And talking about different players out there, such as, that's Arms Reliability, Aviva, et cetera. They kind of bucket APM into two major areas. One is around asset risk and reliability center maintenance, and the other bucket is around predictive and condition-based maintenance, right? So what am I doing to monitor those machines? Mm-hmm. And that's great, and I think that's very accurate. Now, where this gets a little more confusing is, and it's great that each of these capabilities, but each of these capabilities really exist in their own silo if you don't have them talking to each other, and if you've bought them potentially from different vendors and suppliers. What we're attempting to orchestrate, and what we're working on as we speak, is a set of cohesive asset management capabilities that go across asset risk, that go across RCM, that go towards including technology for predictive and condition-based maintenance, so that you have a fully optimized asset management process, right? It's hard to find, if not non-existent out there, a solution that's trying to bring these capabilities together and make them speak with one another for value-based decision-making a customer can make, right? So I'd say that's the baseline, Steve, and we can definitely explore, I think, how we can go deeper into each of these different buckets on how we get them to work together and how we think about that when we tell our customer how we want to proactively help them with this situation.
Mm-hmm. The way that Jerry had talked about this, and this predates Jerry, he readily admitted, this wasn't a phrase that he coined, but it was detection is not correction. And Bentley's been a detection company for most of its history and pretty darn good at it from, I think, most people's perspective. APM is really focused more at what are we going to do about it? We detected a problem. What are we going to do about it? And how are we going to ensure it doesn't happen again? And there's different parts of the organization and different tools they're using. The EAM or CMMS system is helping them execute maintenance work. Mm-hmm. The asset strategy management tool is essentially what ARMS Reliability has brought to the equation with their 1PM product. I mean, there's the asset defect elimination piece.
That's right.
The piece that Bentley is particularly skilled at, which is the asset health. And then machine health, of course, is taking us across all the assets, not just the critical few, as we say. And there really hasn't been an umbrella, as far as I can tell, an umbrella piece of software that brings all those things together so that you can see not only what's the health of the asset, but, what kind of risk does that pose? Is there a compliance risk with emissions? What's the economic risk? I mean, trying to make a decision without basically the perspective of what's this going to cost and what's it going to avoid in terms of cost. It's hard to imagine people might be trying to make a decision without that, actually.
And maybe that's the beauty of what we're trying to do here. When you think about what you just said in those siloed buckets, typically operating that way in the industry today, what we're aiming for here is, how do we take that toolkit that's proven itself in the industry around those health and protection technology capabilities, be that critical based with our Bentley core capabilities that we know so well, be that now with the machine health side on general purpose and balanced plant monitoring? That's live information that can and will be feeding a broader asset strategy management process that constantly needs to be evaluated by our customers and wants to be evaluated by our customers to make sure they can take a financially optimized, risk-based decision, right? So take a turbine and the auxiliary and balance of plant equipment associated with it. Ideally, and what we're saying we want to be able to achieve here is not only can you take a condition-based maintenance approach to this machine, but based on how you want to run this plant and the asset strategy thought process you put around how does maintenance supposed to work for this asset? How does that maintenance work in conjugation with other parts of our plant? You can basically start thinking about a live framework of a machine that fed by live condition monitoring with a real strategy plan in place, you're taking effective work execution decisions, right? And that feedback loops as often as you take those decisions, and it improves upon when things are happening. Eventually, and every now and then, you might have a defect. So to your point, just because you detected a problem doesn't mean you effectively eliminated that problem. And so what we bring to the table beyond the health and protection and the ASM strategy is the component of a defect elimination capability to root cause what's going on with this particular machine so that it never happens again, or at least you limit to how often it can happen.
Sure.
And that again is a constant feedback loop.
Right, and then deploy it at scale. So I fixed it on this asset, and I did it on every other kind of kindred asset across the enterprise. Carlos, with that context of APM, I think you know what I certainly heard is kind of a key point is, yes, machine health is solving a issue with detection on this particular class of assets, but for those listening to understand that it doesn't stop there anymore. Bentley is no longer just, we'll detect it. We'll even tell you what it is. Is it misalignment? Is it unbalance? Is it some other issue? Is it an outer race, bearing defect? Now it's much more heavily involved in, let us help you eliminate that once and for all. And we actually have a platform to do that with System 1 APM. But there's some more places I'd like to go. I know one in particular that you're very passionate about, Carlos, is this time to value and how quickly the machine health, just by the nature of the commercial structure as a subscription service, how quickly the customer can realize payback. So why don't we just put a bookmark here, and when we come back together for the next episode, we can unpack that one a little more fully.
I think that sounds great, Steve. Yep, definitely passionate about that one and excited to speak to you about it.
Okay. Well, with that, you have been listening to Take 5 in Bentley, Nevada, a Baker Hughes business. We'll see you next time.